Hey, Ann, what's up?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for taking my call.
Of course. What's up?
All right. How do I best support a friend who is being abused by their spouse and refuses to seek help?
Oh man. Tell me about it. Whatever you're comfortable talking about. Yeah, I don't want you to just talk. Tell me as much as you feel comfortable telling me.
Okay. It's been going on for over a year, and for a really long time, she didn't want to tell me what was going on. But it's a good friend of mine, so obviously I knew something was up. Phone conversation stopped, text stopped, everything like that. And so, just in the way I am, I asked specific questions and got to the bottom of it. And I guess probably physical abuse is happening over a year now, but there's been abuse in this relationship the whole time,
Yeah.
It's just kicked up. But I just don't know how to continue to hear all of this, give advice, and then have nothing happen with the advice that I give. And I understand that I can't make somebody do something. It's almost now affecting me.
Oh,
kind of sounds
it
selfish,
absolutely is. Yeah.
so I just don't know what to do. I don't know how to. I don't know if I stop talking to her because it's so weighing on me every day.
Yeah.
But then I don't want to leave her, obviously, right?
Yeah.
But I just don't know what to do. And I'm pretty good with compartmentalizing. My husband and I are in ministry. We hear a lot of stories, but it hits different when it's somebody that you love.
Yeah. I'm going to give you two paths here, okay?
Okay.
Path one is the path that I take, and I'm not saying that it's right. I'm saying I've just heard so many of these stories over the years that I had to come to a place where I've got to be able to sleep at night, and I'm willing to cash out a friendship to keep people safe.
Okay.
And so, but then I'm going to give you another alternative that may be more feasible for most people, okay? The two things that I've got no quarter for, and what I mean by no quarter is that are stop the presses for me is if somebody is in physical danger or somebody is considering dying by suicide.
Right.
Everything stops. And if I've got a friend in your situation that consistently says, yeah, I got hit again last night, I got beat up again last night, there comes a moment when I sit down and I say, if you call me and tell me about getting hit again, my next thing is I'm hanging up the phone, I'm calling 911 because I can't stand by and watch this. And there's just a period at the end of that sentence. You wouldn't do that. You swore you wouldn't tell. I don't care what I swore. I don't care what I promised. I would rather you be safe and alive and hate me than have this happen again. And honestly, that is just how I've made peace with it. And there's probably, quite honestly, a few people in my life who have no longer tell me things because they know how I'm going to respond.
Right.
But I also think that there are people in my life who tell me things that they wouldn't otherwise because the thought of when you're abused, physically abused, it takes so much of your soul. I mean, your body, it just does different things physiologically.
Yeah.
And so the thought that I can see past this ending, your body isn't able to see down the road like that. Your body's just trying to survive.
Right.
Right. So it can't see what freedom looks like and what 2 years after an awful, messy divorce and court records and somebody going to jail or somebody going to court and not going to jail, even worse, right? Which happens a lot in domestic abuse. They can't see on the other side of it 2 years from now, being able to walk into their own home for the first time in years and just exhale and feel safe.
Yeah.
Right. So I know that enough about you to say I'm willing to push this domino to knock the whole thing over because I can't stand by and help. So that's me. Okay. I think a broader conversation about boundaries is sitting down with coffee, or sitting down and having an in-person conversation saying, I can't continue to show up to these meetings and have you getting beat up and beat up and beat up. And you saying you don't mean to do anything. I can't carry that anymore.
Right.
Either I will go first and I will walk through hell with you, or I'm going to ask you to stop bringing this cinder block and asking me to carry it for you, but you're not willing to set it down.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what you're trying to do is to both love your friend and keep your friend safe and hold the outcome, and you rarely can do all three of those things.
Right.
What has your conversations been like so far?
I mean, I'm a plan person, so I've usually set up like, okay, well, these are the steps we should take. Let's set aside money. Let's have a to-go bag. Let's have a safe place to go, like those kind of things, ways to get away, stuff like that. And I just think that I think that I think she's scared of the change, right? Like, because even if she's in it and it's awful, sometimes we stay in stuff because it's normal.
Yeah.
And so the idea of the change is probably what's scaring her. But like, I think that's probably what bothers me the most. I'm good with boundaries. Like, I'm a Henry Cloud kind of person. I am good with boundaries.
Yeah.
I have this figured out in my day-to-day life. But this one is just like, usually if I give advice and it just keeps, falling on deaf ears, I walk away. But like her life, I'm worried about her life.
And I think go back to the reason we give advice. Why do we give advice? Because we want to give somebody a path out.
Yeah.
We want somebody to be better off after interacting with us than before.
Mm-hmm.
And if advice isn't that path, then I'm going to jump over the advice path and I'm going to call the authorities because my friend's getting beat to death in their own house.
Yeah.
Right. And here's another thing. I said often people who are in being physically abused, it's hard to get out of that mindset and to look down the road. Mm-hmm. That's not always true. I remember a harrowing conversation with a woman once. And I was just being flippant, like, you need to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget. She looked at me and said, and then what?
Mm-hmm.
I can't eat. I don't have a place to go. Like, it just rattled off. And it was like, oh man, she had done the calculations in her mind.
Yeah.
And she's economically trapped. Or she may go, but she's going to leave behind a 6-year-old and she'd rather get hit than the 6-year-old get hit.
Right.
Like, she had done the long-term calculations and there wasn't a good plan. That's where I think, man, your role as a minister of a local church, have a fund of $2,500 set aside for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
That they come to you and you're like, I got you. I'm ready to sign the lease right now on a 3-month apartment for you. Are you in? And we'll send 6 men over there to get you moved today. Like, that to me is, I don't know. It's. I think the long term, you've got some choices to make and some hard decisions to make down the road is great. But when somebody's in the middle of something, it's not time for swimming lessons. It's time to get them out of the water. You get what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But man, if that's a place where you can pull a trigger, or if that's a place where you and your husband can say, "Hey, we've got your to-go cash.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna put this on the table. We got a 1-bedroom apartment for you, or we got a spot in our garage apartment." Like, I don't know what that looks like, but
right.
I think it's taking some of those variables away. But I do think at the end of the day, I mean, that's been the majority of my life. People coming in and sitting down and saying, I've got this awful thing happening to me or going on in my life. And I say, okay, I'm ready if you are. And they're like, well, I don't want to change anything.
Right.
I don't want to do anything. And I'm always pretty open about, when you're ready, dude, I will storm the gates of hell with you.
Mm-hmm.
Except on those two things, dying by suicide or physical violence. And then I'm just going to start going myself.
Okay.
And I think that probably is not the best solution all the time.
Yeah.
But I'm never, ever again going to have in my life not having made a call. Right?
Yeah.
Because I've been on the other side of that. I'm just not doing that again.
Yeah.
So what's your next move? I'm interested in what your next move is.
Well, I'm putting a little bit of distance because just I know that physically it's, raising my heart rate. It's just it's really been a lot for me. And so I'm trying to just put a little bit of distance between us for a little while, just like a week or two break. And probably, I probably will say at some point, like, I'm going to have to call somebody. I'm going to have to call the police if I hear about this anymore, you know? And then there's the other side of me that, like, the times when she's like, well, it's getting a little better. And by nature, I'm a cynic, and I'm like, okay, well, people like that don't just get better. You know, it's not like you're just like reading a Bible verse and the next day I'm not going to beat my wife anymore. Like,
exactly.
I want to be like, no, there like needs to be some work done here before it's going to get better.
That's right.
But
is this man, like, your close friends? Does this man do y'all have peripheral men that are connected to this dude?
Not that we have in common.
Okay. So it's not like you and her and several other girlfriends are friends, and your husband and him and several other dudes are friends?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay. All right. Because that's the other way. I remember, this is a peripheral story. I just remember this is probably 15 years ago now, maybe a little bit longer. But I made a joke. I just moved to a new town and a new group of men, and we were having like a get together, and we were all kind of laughing. And my wife hadn't moved yet, and we were going around the room like, "Hey, what does everybody need?" And kind of taking prayer requests and just kind of getting to know each other. And I was the new guy, and I was like, "Does anybody know like where the dating spots are?" And we all kind of laughed. And I was happily married and all that. And a guy who's become one of my closest friends in the world, his name's Kevin. He said, "Hey, you don't know us that well, so just to clear the air." If you ever cheat on your wife, you better hope to God she finds you before we do. And I remember being like, okay, whoa, right? But it was just him being like, this is the kind of guys that we are, is how we roll. So I was hoping he might have some peripheral guy friends that could pay him a little visit out behind the woodshed. But
Right.
I think you're in your job as a pastoral care minister, as somebody who works in mental health. There comes a moment when I have to say, okay, I will be here for you. You are not in a position to solve this problem, or you're not interested in solving this problem. And I know the limits of my ability to help you, and I can't solve it for you. If it's going to get you killed or get you hurt, I'm jumping in, and I'm calling the authorities. If it's not, when you are ready, I can't keep accepting your bomb text at 2 a.m. I can't accept your phone calls. I can't accept these coffee dates where you just tell me all this stuff and you don't want to change it. When you're ready, oh my gosh, I'm all in. I'm all in. And maybe sending that in a letter so that person can go back to that letter and go back to that letter and go back to that letter. I love the idea of knocking on your church and saying, hey, we need to have a small fund for when women need to get out. Or you and your husband track down a couple of men, a couple of families, a couple of men and women in your church that will be willing to say, I got $1,500 right now to get them out. I don't know a lot of people in my life that wouldn't just put cash on the table to get somebody out of an abusive situation, get them into an apartment. So I love that idea. But not a way that this ends super well, especially initially. We're playing a long game that we can get this woman some peace. And good God, hope we get this guy the accountability, and he needs a heart change in a major way. Probably after some jail time too. Thanks for the call, Ian. I'm really grateful for you.